education and outreach programs for lovers of art and for those who want to see the world in a new way.
As you explore all that St. Petersburg has to offer, from the thriving visual art scene to performing arts, exceptional museums, eclectic restaurants and waterfront parks, to the serene beauty of our award-winning beaches, carry with you the simple yet revealing saying of Dali's. A true artist is not one who is inspired, but one who inspires others. We invite you to look beyond the obvious, delve into the fantastical, and find exalting inspiration unlike any other, here at the Dali Museum.
Delirious Materia. My delirium was injected and sublimated in these rocks.
DNA. It's the whole name for DNA, and Cricket Watson are the scientists that isolate it. So that's part of it. We start on the shoulder and his other.
Y realmente no sabes si soy un cantante, un actor de cine, un gordo, un escritor, no sabe bien. Todo el problema de la muerte. Creo que ¿quién no va a pensar en la muerte? awaken this dream disappear, is no possible proof that these deliriums exist.
Dalí se desdibuja, tirita su burbuja al descontar latidos. Dalí se decolora porque esta lavadora no distingue tejidos. Él se da cuenta y asustado se lamenta. Los genios no deben morir. Son más de 80 los que curvan tu osamenta. Es un genio Salvador Dalí. Bigote rocococo, ¿de dónde acaba el genio? ¿A dónde empieza el loco? Mirada deslumbrada, ¿de dónde acaba el loco? ¿A dónde empieza el hada? En tu cabeza se comprime la belleza como si fuese una olla express, y es el vapor que va saliendo por la pesa, mágica luz en cada ques. Si te reencarnas en cosa, hazlo en lápiz o en pincel, y gala de piel sedosa, que lo haga en lienzo o en papel. Si te reencarnas en carne, vuelve a reencarnarte en ti, que andamos justos de genios, es un genio Salvador Dalí. Realista y surrealista, con luz de impresionista y trazo impresionante. Delirio colorista, colirio y oculista, de ojos delirantes. En tu paleta mezclas místicos ascetas, con bayonetas y con tetas, y en tu cerebro gala Dios y las pesetas, buen catalán anacoreta. Si te reencarnas en cosa, hazlo en lápiz o en pincel, y gala de piel sedosa, que lo haga en lienzo o en papel. Si te reencarnas en carne, vuelve a reencarnarte en ti. Queremos genios en vida, queremos que estés aquí. è un genio salvador.
Against simplicity, for complexity. Against the collective, for the individual. Against politics, for metaphysics. Against mechanism, for the dream. Salvador Dalí was 38 when he published his autobiography. In it, alongside graphic descriptions of his early life and adolescence, he gives us a list of what he calls his battles for one thing against another. And in one particular line, he writes, for architecture against music. This seems strange. So many artists in the 20th century, Kandinsky, Matisse, Picasso, saw music as an equivalent, if not a higher art form than painting. But Dalí seemed to actively dislike music. In another section of the book, Dalí describes the construction of a scene in his and Buñuel's 1929 surrealist masterpiece, Un chien andalou. The shooting of the scene of the rotten donkeys and the pianos was a rather fine sight, I must say. I made up the putrefaction of the donkeys with great pots of sticky glue, which I poured over them. Also, I emptied their eye sockets and made them larger by hacking them out with scissors. In the same way, I furiously cut their mouths open to make the white rows of their teeth show to better advantage, above those other rows of teeth formed by the keys of the black pianos. Dalí sees the pianos here as just objects. There's nothing lyrical, romantic, or artistic about them. They're as dead as the rotting donkeys that lay on top. So where did this come from? Why did he approach music in this way? And what can we learn from the musical imagery in his paintings? Dalí's use of musical instruments in his work was prolific, particularly in the 1930s. We find paintings full of pianos, violins and cellos, which are sometimes combined to form ensembles. And in one painting, we even see a solitary tuba. And it's through Dalí's use of string instruments that we can gain our first insight into how he thought about music. Let's start with this painting, Masochistic Instrument from 1934. The violin is the focal point of this work, framed not only by the cracks in the wall that surround it, but also by the light and shadows that draw our eye towards the instrument. The violin is the protagonist in this story, and the faceless nude above the antagonist, who is pinching the violin as if pinching skin. The solid instrument has become fluid, placid, soft. Like so many things in Dalí's paintings, a direct line can be drawn from the object to its meaning. The cypress tree on the right represents death. The cracks in the wall remind us of decay and the destructive effect of time. And the soft violin symbolizes sexual impotence. For a long time, I experienced the misery of believing I was impotent, as Dalí wrote in Unspeakable Confessions. This painting acts as a gateway to the other depictions of string instruments in his work, and in almost every one of them, Dalí turns the solid structure of the instrument into a waxy, flaccid, living thing. In Dalí's paintings, hard things become soft, inanimate objects become animate. Just look at his most recognizable work, The Persistence of Memory. These melting clocks are part of a huge collection of soft-hard dichotomies in his paintings. Hard edges cutting through the soft flesh of once rigid bodies.
Hello, my name is Blue. Awfully nice to meet you. I'd like to start with my battered heart. Are you melancholy too? I get so down sometimes. But damn, I'm still alive. Hello, I'm not so bad that I could make you laugh when you're melancholy too. Are you? Do you like Salvador Dalí, burnt toast?
su burbuja al descontar latidos. Dalí se decolora porque esta lavadora no distingue tejidos. Él se da cuenta y asustado se lamenta. Los genios no deben morir. Son más de 80 los que curvan tu osamenta. Es un genio Salvador Dalí. Bigote rocococo, ¿de dónde acaba el genio? ¿A dónde empieza el loco? Mirada deslumbrada, ¿de dónde acaba el loco? ¿A dónde empieza el hada? En tu cabeza se comprime la belleza como si fuese una olla express. Y es el vapor que va saliendo por la pesa, mágica luz en cada ques. Si te reencarnas en cosa, hazlo en lápiz o en pincel, y gala de piel sedosa, que lo haga en lienzo o en papel. Si te reencarnas en carne, vuelve a reencarnarte en ti. Que andamos justos de genios, y un genio Salvador Dalí. Realista y surrealista, con luz de impresionista y trazo impresionante. Delirio colorista, colirio y oculista de ojos delirantes. En tu paleta mezclas místicos ascetas con bayonetas y con...
Darling, we're going to talk in English, which I know is not your language, but I'm sure you're going to manage wonderfully.
Yes, my English remain very, very problematic, but this is not so important because see somebody catch only a little piece of my ideas, this is absolutely sufficient because Dalinian ideas possess one tremendous power of germination.
Well, I quite see that. And also I would beg of you to speak and speak ceaselessly, even if you don't speak in English, because I'm always accused of speaking, and I want to speak as little as possible, otherwise I shall be torn limb from limb. The first question that I wanted to put you, it really ought to be about modern art, but I can't help it. There's some delicious frivolity in you which makes me ask it, is how did you manage to produce those marvelous moustaches?
In the beginning of this moustache, use one very natural product, the dates, you know, the fruit.
I know.
In the last moment of dinner, not clean my fingers.
Yes.
Only put a little in my moustache, remain for all afternoon, very, very
up.
efficiently.
Mm. Well, and that's how it began.
Yes, but now use one real product, very good, in the Place Vendôme, is Hungarian wax.
Oh, yeah.
Pinot. It's very Well, no, wax is already Proust. Marcel Proust used the same.
Yes, but his was a little pointed one, wasn't it? It didn't have a splendid upturn like yours.
Used his wax, used his wax in one other manner, in one other mood, in one depressing psychosis way.
Yes, I see.
A little depressing and melancholic. My mustache, contrarily, is very gay, very
gay.
pointed, very aggressive.
Do you have any trouble with it at night? I mean, do you have to peg it or anything like that, or does it stand up at night?
No, in the night, clean every night. Every coming soft, sleep.
So at night it droops down while you're sleeping.
Completely.
And then in the morning up she goes again.
3 minutes. Only in 3 minutes fix my mustache.
And then you feel you can face the world with that wonderful moustache standing up.
Yes, because every day becoming much more practical for my inspiration.
But I'm fascinated to know that. Mr. Dolly, you've come over, haven't you, to paint a portrait of Laurence Olivier?
Yes, exact. Yes,
How's it going?
It's very good, very good. Only work 15 minutes is almost complete.
You did the whole thing in 15 minutes?
Sir Laurence take 2 hours for put the makeup, the nose, everything. And myself in 15 minutes accomplish the portrait. Now it's necessary only realization of this portrait. This is perhaps 1 month.
But it's
everything is in my mean very clear and very violent.
Is it going to be what we would regard perhaps in our old-fashioned way as a somewhat eccentric picture? Is it going to have lobsters and things like that in it, or is it just going to be like him?
This portrait, in my opinion, is perhaps one of the most sensational. It's not possible talk nothing in advance, because everything is possible happen in my life. And nobody looked this portrait before it's completely finished.
But in your
This
mind...
is my condition for start this portrait. Also, no like it paint the legend, historical, the legend of Shakespeare. No like it paint the historical people. No like it paint Sir Laurence Olivier. No like it paint this character in the film. Like it produce one integral and complete Dalinian portrait.
Good, well, we shall all look forward to seeing it. He is, I believe, in the costume of this film, Richard III, in which he's appearing, isn't he?
Yes.
Do you bring that out, the costume?
No, thinking not is sufficient. It's like a very much one animal in the center of... Comment ça s'appelle en anglais? Le sanglier.
The sanglier, the blood, you mean, the spirit?
No, le sanglier. This animal avec...
oh, the sanglier.
Sanglier.
The what the hell is sanglier? Rhinoceros, is it?
No, it's a little design.
A little tiny thing. What's it like? Describe it.
C'est c'est un porc avec des longues dents.
Oui. C'est un boar. C'est un boar. C'est un boar.
C'est le totem, c'est exactement le totem of Richard III.
Yes, so it's that Sir Laurence and Richard III will be both resemble this delicious animal with the teeth and so on.
Exactly. It's one big collar in enamel, gold enamel, and precious stones in the center representing the totem of this
I
animal.
can't wait to see it. When should we have
Very
it?
aggressive animal, you know, very
I know.
pointed.
Yes. Mr. Dolly, who, apart from yourself, would you regard as a good portrait painter today?
Myself believe there no exist one
Who?
in modern time.
Nobody at all. Have you ever seen...
Picasso is the only possible create extraordinary good portraits. May not like it, this kind of activity.
Augustus John, have you ever seen any of his portraits?
It's a very big ability in the drawing, very good draftsmanship in the drawing, but the painting appear me the same characteristics of the other English painters, you know, very dirty and very melancholy, sad and depressing, very depressing.
You feel that our art as a whole suffers from an undue excess of melancholy, really? Much melancholy. I noticed you'd been to see some exhibition and there was a donkey there in it. And
yes,
you had...
just can talk about this melancholy. Remember this exhibit, of one of these is very young British painters. everyone paint the more sad and melancholic kind of animals, fish, people, houses. Everything very dirty also, only the more dirty colors and the more depressing effects.
Now, why do you think that is? Why should they all be so sad? Why should they paint this poor old donkey with such a sad,
This
sad
is one,
look?
no understand the reason that these young people is so melancholic, no understand.
No.
Because myself believe, contrary, that the modern atomic age is very gay. No, nothing is more gay than the collision and explosion of intra-atomic conflicts of nuclear physics.
You feel that really livens things up enormously.
For me, is the more happy thing is look these terrific conflicts about electrons and pi mesons and atoms. Is everything jumping and romping in a completely extraordinary eurythmic feeling.
Yes, I see what you mean.
Myself is every day is more gay. Around me, look everybody every day more sad, more depressing, and more physical and moral exhaustion.
Do you find that true in New York as well as here in poor old Europe?
No, New York in this moment offer one very big quantity of abstract painters. Myself no like it abstract painting because believe it's only one part of, it's one decorative art, but these paintings of New York is plenty of vitality.
And on the whole, rather...
Enormous vitality, completely explosive.
Would you still call yourself a surrealist as a painter? You were originally, you belonged to the school of surrealism in Paris.
Myself believe that now, myself is the only surrealist continued this kind of inspiration.
You are in fact the sole survivor of the surrealist movement, really.
Yes, avec la différence que myself like it, incorporate and sublimate the first experience of my life in the big classical tradition of Spanish painters. But the bottom of my inspiration remain completely delirant and surrealistic.
But the school, as a school, you feel, has rather gone out of existence.
The school is disappeared because becoming one academic school, with no personality. It also collapsed in this kind of sadness and melancholy of the other kind of modern schools.
I see. So that really you feel that surrealism, having started when you were with it as very gay, has now sunk into melancholy and despair, and that you alone remain as a true representative of it.
Absolutely true.
Now, all your wonderful jokes that we know about, taxi cabs with the rain inside and so on, you're going to go on with those jokes.
This corresponds to first period of my life. The moment of myself is very big interest in psychoanalysis, coming in London for meet Dr. Freud. But now my interest is only about the tremendous progress of nuclear research and nuclear physics.
And so really that represented a phase in your career, those jokes that we all knew about, and now you move on and all your life will be to the rhythm of atomic explosion.
Exactly, one new kind of atomic and nuclear mysticism.
Well, thank you very much. That's a fascinating phrase, nuclear mysticism.